The two builders. So, picture this. You're in Galilee, where the land looks solid but isn't. There are these dry riverbeds called wadis. Most of the year, they're peaceful, smooth, flat, easy to dig. Perfect for building a house, right? Until it rains. Then the whole thing becomes a death trap. Water comes roaring through like a freight train and boom, your dream home's floating to Damascus. Jesus tells this story about two builders. One digs deep and hits rock. The other takes the shortcut. Both build, both look fine. But when the storm hits, one stands, one collapses like a badly written TikTok trend. His audience didn't need to imagine it. They'd seen it happen. The sneaky brilliance here is that both builders hear Jesus' words. The only difference is obedience. One actually does something with it. Turns out wisdom isn't about knowing verses. It's about living them when life gets messy. And the kicker? Storms aren't punishment. They're proof. Everyone gets rain, wind, chaos. The question is what holds when it all hits. Today, the sand might be your image, your comfort, your vibe. It looks stable until something shakes it. The rock isn't fancy. It's consistency, faith, and doing what's right when no one's clapping. So yeah, you're building something. We all are. The only question is what kind of storm your foundation can survive. The sower. Imagine a farmer who looks more like an artist than a worker. He's walking his field, tossing seeds by hand. No fancy tractor, no neat rows, just trust and muscle memory. Some seeds land on the path. Birds laugh and eat them. Others fall on rocky patches, sprout fast, then shrivel in the sun. Some hit the thorny edge and get choked out. A few find good soil and explode with life. Everyone listening to Jesus knew this scene. It was their world. But the twist? He's not talking about farming. He's talking about hearts. The seed is truth. The soil is us. And here's the uncomfortable part. Soil changes. You can be soft one season, rock hard the next. Distraction is today's bird. Shallow attention is the rock. The thorns are those endless notifications convincing you everything matters except the thing that actually does. Jesus never blamed the seed. He knew his words had power. He just asked us to notice what kind of ground we've turned into. Modern version? Your heart's an algorithm. It shows what you engage with. You can't grow deep if you scroll wide. Maybe growth isn't about learning something new. It's about finally letting the old truth sink in and stay put. The weeds, tares. Now this one starts like a petty farming drama. A guy plants good wheat. His jealous neighbor sneaks in at night and scatters darnel, a weed that looks exactly like wheat until harvest. That's not fiction. Romans actually had to make laws against this, real ancient sabotage. When the plants grow, the servants panic. Should we pull out the weeds? The master says, nope, you'll wreck the wheat too. Wait till harvest. Translation: stop trying to fix what only time and God can sort. Everyone listening probably smirked. They'd seen that temptation before. But Jesus wasn't talking about gardens. He was talking about people. We want instant justice, instant purity, instant results. God says, chill. You're not the harvester. And yeah, that hits today. We're addicted to quick judgments. Online mobs, moral hot takes, cancel culture. It's the same spirit. We think we're defending truth, but half the time we're just ripping out good wheat that hasn't matured yet. So maybe this parable's a reminder that patience is faith. Some people aren't ready yet. Some things you can't rush. There's a harvest coming, and when it's time, every root will show what it really is. Until then, keep growing. Stop yanking. The field's not yours anyway. The Unforgiving Servant. This one starts with Peter asking the question every human secretly wants answered. So, how many times do I have to forgive before I can finally block them? He suggests 7, probably thinking he's being generous. Jesus says, try 70 times 7. Translation: stop counting. Then he tells the story of a servant who owes his king a ridiculous amount, something like 10,000 talents. That's billions in today's money. It's, you accidentally bought a country, levels of debt. The king forgives him completely. The guy walks out, finds someone who owes him a few bucks, grabs him by the throat and demands payment. Word gets back to the king. Cue the judgment. The people hearing this knew what debt meant. In their world, debt could get you jailed, enslaved, or worse. Forgiveness wasn't poetic, it was economic suicide for the lender. So when the king cancels a debt that massive, it's unthinkable grace. The theological punchline? Mercy received must become mercy given. You can't accept a canceled debt and then act like a collection agent. Jesus is brutally clear. Your willingness to forgive reveals whether you've actually understood grace. Modern version? We post about good vibes and letting go, but we're walking around with emotional ledgers longer than a CVS receipt. You can't worship on Sunday and hold grudges on Monday. Mercy isn't a personality trait. It's proof you've been forgiven. So yeah, keep your receipts for taxes, not for people. The workers in the vineyard. Imagine a boss who hires workers at dawn for a fair wage, a denarius, standard day's pay. Then, around lunchtime, he grabs more folks, then some at 3 p.m. Finally, with 1 hour left before closing, he hires the stragglers still standing around. When payday hits, everyone gets the same full wage. The early birds are furious. That's not fair. And Jesus says, exactly, because this isn't an HR manual. It's a parable about grace. In the first century day labor system, men stood in the market hoping someone would hire them, so their families could eat. No contract, no guarantees. So the landowner's generosity wasn't injustice. It was compassion. The math of heaven breaks our calculators. Grace doesn't work by seniority or hours logged. You can show up late to the vineyard and still get the full reward. Modern translation: someone finds faith at 60 and gets the same mercy as you at 16. Someone repents after wrecking their life, and heaven throws them the same party as the good kid. If that bugs you, congratulations. You're one of the early workers. Grace is offensive because it's equal, but that's the only way it stays beautiful. God's generosity doesn't shortchange you. It exposes your envy. The two sons. Jesus asks a simple question that flips everyone inside out. A father tells his two sons, "Go work in the vineyard." The first says, "Nope," but later feels bad and goes. The second says, "Yes, sir," and then never shows up. Jesus asks, which did the father's will? Everyone mumbles, the first one. In first century culture, public honor was everything. Saying yes in front of others made you look good. But Jesus cared about obedience, not optics. This parable wasn't subtle. He told it to religious leaders who were all talk. Big prayers, long robes, no fruit. Meanwhile, tax collectors and outcasts, the no people, were actually repenting and following him. It's savage honesty in story form. Obedience beats appearance. Modern take? The internet is full of the second son, posting faith, quoting verses, hashtagging gratitude, but never actually doing what they preach. God's not scrolling for affirmations. He's watching for action. So if you've been the no person who later turned around, good news, you're exactly the type Jesus bragged about. He loves a late yes. And if you're still saying yes with your mouth and ghosting with your life, time to clock in, friend. The vineyard's waiting. The wicked tenants. So Jesus tells this story right in front of a bunch of religious elites who think they run the place. It's like he's standing in front of a boardroom and saying, once upon a time there was a group of corrupt executives who hijacked the company from the owner. You can imagine how that went. Anyway, a landowner plants a vineyard, fences it, builds a wine press, everything, and leases it to tenants while he's away. When harvest time comes, he sends servants to collect his share. The tenants beat one, kill another, stone the next. The owner sends more. They do the same. Finally, he sends his son, thinking, surely they'll respect him. The tenants say, perfect. Let's kill him and take the inheritance. It's basically ancient real estate horror, and the people listening, they knew exactly what Jesus was implying. The vineyard was Israel, the tenants were the leaders, the servants were the prophets, and the son, well, that part hit too close to home. The theological gut punch. God's patience doesn't mean blindness. He keeps sending mercy over and over, but rebellion always has an expiry date. Grace is generous, not infinite in opportunity. The final act, the son's death, was prophecy wrapped in a parable. And the modern angle? We still try to run God's property like it's ours. Life, resources, talent. We manage them like landlords instead of stewards. Then we wonder why the owner feels distant. This parable calls it out. You're not the owner, you're the tenant. Be grateful the rent is mercy, not performance. So yeah, take care of the vineyard like it belongs to someone else, because it does. The Wedding Banquet. This one's wild. A king throws a wedding feast for his son, basically the social event of the century. You'd expect everyone to be tripping over themselves to attend, right? Nope. The invited guests ghost the king. Some make excuses, others straight up kill the messengers. Talk about RSVP drama. The king, furious but not defeated, opens the invite list to everyone, the poor, the outsiders, the nobodies. The hall fills with guests who never thought they'd make the cut. And just when you think the story's over, Jesus adds a twist. One guy shows up without wedding clothes. The king spots him and says, "Friend, how did you get in here?" The man's silent. He's tossed out. Everyone listening would have blinked, because back then it was common for a host to provide the wedding garment, meaning the guy had access to what he needed. He just refused to wear it. Theologically, the parable is about the kingdom invitation. The Jews were first on the guest list. Many rejected it, so it was open to the world. But entry still requires transformation. Grace gets you in, but it also changes what you wear, inwardly and outwardly. Modern angle? Everyone loves an open invite until they realize it's not a come-as-you-please party. God's love is inclusive, but his kingdom has a dress code: humility, repentance, mercy. You can't show up to eternity in self-righteous rags and call it fashion. So, you're invited. The feast is ready. The king covered your outfit. Don't make him chase you down because you'd rather wear pride to the party. The 10 virgins. Jesus paints this like a wedding night suspense film. 10 bridesmaids are waiting for the groom to arrive so the celebration can start. 5 are wise. They bring extra oil. The other 5 are the kind of people who charge their phones to 2% and swear they'll be fine. Hours pass. Midnight hits. The groom finally shows. The prepared ones light their lamps and head out. The others panic. "We're out of oil. Lend us some." The wise say, "Sorry, we barely have enough for ourselves." While the unprepared rush off to buy more, the wedding begins. Doors shut. When they return, lamps flickering, they knock. The groom says, "I don't know you." Cold. Everyone in Jesus' audience knew this scene. Ancient weddings were unpredictable. The groom could show up any time after the dowry negotiations. The waiting wasn't symbolic, it was reality. And lamps weren't decorations. They were necessary for the procession. No oil meant no entry. The theological message hits hard. Readiness isn't about paranoia, it's about relationship. The oil isn't literal. It's intimacy with God, character, consistency. You can't borrow someone else's faith when the moment comes. You can't panic prep for eternity. Modern version? Half of us are spiritual procrastinators. We love the idea of heaven, but assume there'll be time later to get serious. We treat faith like a charger we'll plug in when the battery hits 1%. Jesus says, "Keep your lamp burning." In other words, stay real, stay alert, stay connected. Because when the door closes, the time for pretending ends. And nothing's worse than realizing you missed the moment you were made for, simply because you thought you had more time. The talents. Jesus starts this one like a business story. A master's heading out of town, so he entrusts his servants with talents. A measurement of money, not a skill. One gets 5, another 2, the last one. He doesn't tell them what to do, just leaves them in charge. When he returns, the first 2 have doubled the investment. The last guy buried his in the ground, dusts it off, and proudly returns the exact same amount. Now, everyone listening back then would have understood the setup. A single talent was about 20 years' wages. This isn't pocket change, it's life-changing trust. Burying it wasn't cautious, it was lazy. A talent hidden underground didn't earn interest, didn't serve anyone. It just sat there in the dark, safe but useless. The master's reaction says it all. He doesn't scold the servant for losing money. He scolds him for doing nothing. You could have at least put it in a bank. In kingdom language, that's brutal honesty. God would rather you risk failure than bury potential. Theologically, it's not about earning salvation. It's about stewardship. Grace gives you something valuable, and your job is to multiply it. Kindness, creativity, faith, influence, opportunity. Every breath is an investment from heaven's account. Modern translation? We love saying, "I'm just waiting on God," but half the time, He's waiting on us. Some of us have spiritual gifts rotting underground because fear dresses up like humility. We say, "I don't want to mess it up," but the truth is, we don't want to be uncomfortable. The "well done" at the end of life won't go to the one who played it safe. It'll go to the one who tried, risked, loved, failed, and tried again. So yeah, dig up your talent, dust it off. The ground was never your assignment, growth was. The sheep and the goats. Jesus ends his ministry with a courtroom scene that hits like a thunderclap. The Son of Man sits on his throne, all nations gathered before him. He separates people the way shepherds separate sheep from goats. To the sheep on his right, "Come, inherit the kingdom. When I was hungry, you fed me. Thirsty, you gave me drink." To the goats on his left, "When I was hungry, you ignored me." Both groups are confused. "When did we ever see you?" He answers, "Whatever you did or didn't do, for the least of these, you did or didn't do for me." Now, ancient listeners knew this image. Sheep and goats grazed together during the day. Only when night fell did shepherds divide them. Sheep could handle the cold, goats couldn't. Jesus used that familiarity to show something terrifyingly simple. The difference between the righteous and the selfish isn't belief, it's behavior born from compassion. This parable shatters any comfort in abstract religion. There's no quiz on doctrine here, no attendance record. The exam is kindness. Theologically, it's judgment through mercy. Not who you impressed, but who you helped. And he calls the overlooked, prisoners, strangers, the hungry, brothers. He identifies with pain so fully that ignoring it becomes ignoring him. Modern angle? We curate empathy now. We'll donate online but dodge eye contact with the homeless guy. We'll share posts about justice but never invite anyone messy into our space. Jesus doesn't want awareness. He wants presence. And the irony? The sheep didn't even realize they were serving him. Mercy had become their instinct. The goats weren't villains. They were distracted. But distraction turns compassion into apathy. The kingdom's final audit won't measure theology degrees or follower counts. It'll ask one quiet question. Did your love reach anyone but yourself? The Good Samaritan. This is the mic drop parable. A lawyer, someone trained in religious law, asked Jesus, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus flips it back. "You know the commandments. Love God, love your neighbor." The man, trying to sound clever, asks, "And who exactly is my neighbor?" That's when Jesus tells a story that still wrecks egos 2,000 years later. A man's traveling from Jerusalem to Jericho, a notoriously dangerous road, steep and full of caves where bandits hid. Sure enough, he's attacked, robbed, left half dead on the roadside. A priest comes by, sees him, crosses the street. A Levite, another religious figure, does the same. Then a Samaritan shows up. Now, that word alone would have made every Jewish listener flinch. Samaritans were despised, religious half-breeds, cultural enemies. But this man doesn't hesitate. He bandages the wounds, pours oil and wine, puts the victim on his donkey, and pays an innkeeper to care for him, promising to cover any extra cost later. That's not just kindness. That's risky, expensive, inconvenient love. Theology hiding in plain sight. The Samaritan is a mirror of Jesus himself, an outsider who stops for the broken when the holy pass by. Love isn't proved by your tribe, it's proved by your mercy. Historically, the shock wasn't the compassion, it was who showed it. A Samaritan hero? That was scandalous. Jesus took the most despised figure and made him the example. Modern translation? Our roads to Jericho are everywhere. Streets, offices, feeds. People half alive, ignored because helping costs time or comfort. We scroll past wreckage daily, and still, Jesus asked the same question he asked the lawyer. Which one was a neighbor? The answer's the same every century. The one who stopped, the one who cared. Mercy is the passport of heaven. If your love doesn't inconvenience you, it's probably not love yet. The kingdom stories were never bedtime tales. They were blueprints. Jesus didn't tell them so we'd memorize. He told them so we'd build. So the question isn't which parable you liked most. It's which one you'll live tomorrow. If these stories stirred something in you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next journey through his words. Drop a like if one of the parables hit home, and share it with someone whose faith could use a fresh spark. Until next time, keep building on the rock.